I've seen it. It's all about marketing now more than anything else.
Yeah. So they'll tell you stuff like, yeah, the the platform will automatically push information over to Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, those kind of social channels, because it's part of their marketing funnel.
Yeah.
If it's even doing fiduciary checks of customers, it's correlating information from the banks, and in the same breath negotiating things like you know rates, and pitching that rate to the customer as we
Mhm.
offer XYZ. So
And then people talk about privacy policy and all these things. So there's absolutely none. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's to a lot of people right now, it seems very disconnected. um, when they walk in, they figure that whatever they put in the system,
Mhm.
it's kind of relegated to just that system, but the systems right now are becoming increasingly integrated.
Yeah.
And so there are some people when when they're looking at the usage reports
Mhm.
that the system generates, they're like, how did you pull all of that information?
Yeah.
Those platforms are capable of doing a whole lot more than what those reports actually generate.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen it. Sometimes all they need from you is like confirmation. That is all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because they already have all the information there right there sitting up, yeah, at their fingertips. Right. But I wanna, you know, take my listeners on a journey a little, that
mhm,
especially in the service department, what we had at one point was a dispatcher.
right.
A dispatcher, when the vehicle comes in for servicing, the dispatcher would look at it based on the qualification of a particular technician. Then he or she would assign that vehicle to the technician, right?
Right.
Based on their skill set. Now, with the current systems, the dispatcher is the dispatcher is no more. That position no longer exists. Just like a secretary who used to type up the orders and fax it off, and those positions are gone.
Gone. Yeah.
Right now, when a technician goes to work in the morning and he signs in, automatically he can see exactly
What is that
what is available, what is there, because based on his skill set, then he now can pick and choose whichever vehicle he wants to work on, right?
right?
So
Mhm.
something like that now is, how can you explain like the integration of that system to where it was removing the dispatcher?
So it's like what we said before. You're trying to roll in additional features, additional functions as the system evolves. And what you're going to see increasingly is these are the types of automation that when people mention automation, um, this is what happens. You look at Fraser, for example, back in the 2000s, and
Mhm.
what they considered revolutionary at the time was being able to roll up like 25 different forms into the system that
Yeah.
can automatically be populated with information relating to the data on the service order.
Hmm.
What that basically means is you don't need a secretary to go type up 25 different versions of
Yeah.
a letter relating to that. I remember back in ACE 400 days, um, it was the same time that I had stuff like Just Now machines, and they'd roll like 50 copies of a compliance letter that you had to sign and then stick on the customer's file to say um, you know we're indemnifying the organization from X.
Hmm.
Those are automatically generated in the system in the early 2000s. You look at where we are at now, and it's a whole lot more extensive.
Yeah.
You're looking at customizations that are not just inserting regular fields. You have a person coming to sit in front of you to negotiate, for example, the purchase of a vehicle.
Hmm.
And because the system is able to check credit rating actively, it can negotiate with the financial institution a custom rate for you,
Yeah.
incorporate that into the documents relating to the bill of sale. and at the end of the day print it out. And that was one person generating all of that.
Mhm.
Usually, back in the day, there'd be a bean counter involved trying to call into some bank resource to try and correlate that information. The
Yeah.
timeline for finalizing sales are no
Mhm.
longer measured in days or weeks. They're
Yeah.
almost instantaneous.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing on something like parts floor, where you're trying to correlate information that would normally in a manual system take you, you know, like 15 to 20 minutes. The system is going to make some assumptions almost immediately as soon as you put in information into the system.
Right.
So they, I've actually seen instances where the end user in front of the system probably knows better than the system, but the rules and the formulae already embedded in the system will not allow them to do X. So
Mhm.
you look at something like, all right, you might not be able to use this particular oil type, but this other one will suffice.
Will suffice. Yeah.
Will not allow him to sell that oil type against that VIN
Mhm.
because it's not in the pre-assigned,
Yeah.
rule set.
Yeah. Only an experienced person will know exactly what else can be used. Yeah.
Right. And for the most part, when you are fast forwarding on the timeline to try and figure out the impact on organizations and individuals who are hired to these organizations, um, it's in some instances it can be troubling because what they're asking is for less rigorous skill sets for that initial point of contact, because all of the stuff the system is willing to do or
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
capable of
You're right, and that is one of the reasons why the the industry itself right now is suffering from getting good people who have the experience and the know-how of moving around a dealership setting itself, because they know that the system is preset now. All they have to do is just give the new prospect the just the
initial
basics.
walkthrough. Right.
Right, just the
Yeah.
basics to work with and to work with, and then throw them out into the deepest end of the ocean and tell them to swim.
Yeah, it's hilarious that you should mention that, because I remember the onboarding experience in the early days required extensive apprenticeship.
Yeah,
Right, so you had to
exactly. Yeah.
work with somebody and they'd walk you through the ropes and all of that stuff. Onboarding onto the new systems now, for the most part, is going through a couple of YouTube videos and becoming acclimatized with the different menus.
Yeah.
Um, and they're hopeful that you'll be able to manage that at your own pace. Now, what that really means for a lot of people learn at different rates.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you could be stuck in apprenticeship for 6 to 10 months because that's how long it would take you to assimilate all that information,
Mm-hmm.
right? When somebody gives you a system that has 3 hours of YouTube videos, they
Yeah.
expect you to be conversant with the system
With the system, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it shifts the expectation dramatically in ways that I don't think people understand from a dollars and cents perspective, how it translates to the employer no longer has to spend 6 months of salary on an
Yeah.
individual, but the individual is under significant duress to onboard 4 hours worth of information as permanent information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it seems like it's getting easier, but it also adds a lot of stress on,
Yeah.
on your so.
Yeah. One of the things that I was impressed with when I came and saw the system here, working at a dealership here in Toronto, was the ability to integrate so many different dealerships right across the entire country itself.
Yeah.
So someone was able to look up a part. If we don't have it in stock, then they know that John Brown's auto, which
Has
is
it
like
already.
5 kilometers down the road, had that part in stock.
Yep.
And you could
Yep.
call them and find out if they still have it, and then you send the customer along there, right?
Yeah.
In a very competitive environment now, elsewhere, you don't have things like those,
Mhm.
right? So it also depends on the region, the country, or the type of platform and the type of competition that is there.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable though. As you move towards web-centric systems,
Yeah.
the selling point behind web-centric systems is integration.
Mhm.
How that integration happens and how that scaling happens, um, it's no longer in the dealer's hand how the integration on the back end happens. You
Yeah.
purchase a piece of software. The guy who makes the software is the guy who is busy doing the integration. So I've worked with a couple of clients where um, extensibility is their selling point, right? They are selling on both ends of the spectrum. They're selling to the dealers, they're selling to the suppliers, they're selling to everybody, and so the currency is not what it used to be. Back in the day, the currency used to be the individual sale to a dealership.
Yeah.
Um, for the software industry now, the currency is data. So wherever they can get data points, that is sellable, any kind of data point. So you look at a system that integrates with Facebook, and all of a sudden that integration into Facebook is a selling point.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You integrate into some kind of 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 financial system, and when you go to the financial system to basically have that conversation with them, you can negotiate rates just based on the volume of customers that you have behind your software product that you're approaching the institution with.